pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Good evening. First, I'd like to let the public know that Mr. Moretti, Councilman Moretti, is away on business and sends his apologies for not being here tonight. First order of business, we have presentations, and I'm going to share a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Lawler. September 8th, I was fortunate enough to ride along with Lieutenant Verlone around the town to see how things were going and what was going on with the students and just in the town, and it was a great opportunity. I was actually so pleased to ride with him, and we had the Batmobile out that night, and we had, there were a half dozen cars that I saw when I was riding about, and it was really a great thing to see the enforcement from the Narragansett Police Department, so a credit to the chief and all the things that we've done around that, so thank you. And I went home about 1:30, and it was pretty quiet by the time I had arrived home, so.
I also had the opportunity to go out. I was with Sergeant Matt Sutton last weekend. There was no action. I saw no action, which was a great thing. But during the ride along, I was able to really have a great conversation with him. And the question I asked is, what do you need? What more do you need as far as a tool to have more quiet nights like this so people can sleep and we can have some stability in town? And his response back was he really would like some additional manpower. If we could actually add on, there's currently a spot that is not filled, a vacant spot on our roster. Jim alluded to during our first meeting that Matt, myself, Jim, and the chief met this past week to talk about this, to talk about actually gaining additional help during the height of the party season. So one suggestion that the chief had for us to take a look at is take a look at an overlap to have, as Jim put it, the worst of the worst time of the first shift and worst time of the second be covered with another overlay. So if we can have the increased manpower, police power, maybe we can have more quiet nights and boring nights like the one I witnessed. So congratulations, Chief, you're doing a great job. I also know that you are reaching out and trying to work with URI, which I know everybody tries to do every single year, but it sounds like you're really optimistic about the person you're working with now, so congratulations.
Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes. August 7th, 2017, the executive session minutes. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. August 21st, 2017, the regular meeting minutes.
So move.
Do I have a
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. August 21st, 2017, the executive session minutes.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. Next, we have open forum. When you come up to the mic, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address. Do I have anybody speaking at this time who would like to speak?
David Winter of Boone Street. I was reading in the paper about the situation up at Sprague Bridge and Narrow River, and one phrase that stuck out at me when I was reading it was, we're going to have less parking there. It's going to be interesting to see what the unintended consequences of that are. But it got me to thinking about parking in town and what's going on. And it seems to me for a long, long time, when we had a lot more parking, everybody sort of appreciated the fact that summertime's a special time here, and the more people we can have walking around town, the better it is for businesses and stuff. And then something changed, and that's a debate for another time. But the 2-hour parking limit showed up on Narragansett Avenue, which is the same as no beach parking. And now this thing seems to be parking, jumping up all over the place. And a couple of things are happening. One, I think, is decreasing the traffic downtown. And the other way, I think it's actually making Narragansett less of a welcoming town that I think we hope it could be. And I'm trying to think of something to do to like balance the needs out here, and I have a proposal. We got plenty of time, do a study, get some businessmen involved, and come up with how many parking spots we want to have here in Narragansett. And then put a process in place that says, if you want to put up these 2-hour parking signs on your street, that's fine, but you have to provide us parking other places, so that we can maintain some sort of total parking in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Stanley?
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I was at the Calamari Festival, and this old lady, well, elderly lady came to me and said she inherited a house, and she says, well, I'm never going to rent my house. People hate landlords, therefore, I'm never going to rent it. I said, well, you probably could find some good people if you tried. So I want to speak a little bit about foreign related. I think foreign related issue we have kind of is targeting students a little bit. And the problem is beach rentals. The students, of course, fit in with this beach rental thing. And so if we want to rid the town of students, therefore we got to rid the town of beach rentals. That's what they're going to be. So we got rid of so our program is, let's get rid of the beach. If we get rid of the beach rentals, the students won't be here. So the real problem is not the students, it's the beach rentals that are here for them. And then I was really happy when I heard that Steve Wright brought up the idea about increasing the fees. That's the idea. What a genius. You know, if we increase the fees, we won't have so many beach rentals. We won't have so many people here. We got too many people. He just didn't go far enough. Come on, Steve, you know, $2, forget it, $15. We need to go to $15, never mind $10. We need to increase the fees significantly enough to get rid of some of the beach rentals, get rid of this summer crowd. And they're causing trouble with these students. You know, if you were in, I guess, communist China, that's what they would do, make laws. You can't go here, you can't, who are unrelated, whatever laws you're going to do, that comes out of communist China. They make laws. In America, I thought we use the economic issue. You know, let's increase the fees, get rid of it. They will take care of themselves. They won't be here because the fees are too high. So that's the American way. Let's do it the American way, not the communist China way. Increase the fees, get them out that way. Forget about the foreign related. Forget about the laws. Let's not make a law like the communists would do. Let's increase the fees more. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Anybody else wishing to speak for open forum? It's funny.
Haven't been here in a while.
Can you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Lois Oberg, living on campus URI, White Swan.
Thank you.
I'm the only full-time where the rest are all rentals, all out-of-state owners, all getting 500 plus a head. And they weren't even in there a week, and it was unbelievable. They're playing games and getting drunk, and 10 a.m. in the morning, they've got the balcony filled with bottles on it. And it's unbelievable. My mailbox was smashed, and my son had only put it up 4 weeks ago. And that's not my first one. I lost track of how many I've put up. But one of the things I really want, I read about the early semester complaints, and the police reports show decline. Well, I think that's good, but then I turned the page, and the Narragansett summonses, ordinances, and arrests is larger than the piece on the semester complaints. So I don't know where we're going wrong. They were all 18, 21, 20, the whole thing. It was on the back of the page. And just one more thing for now. We get these postcards when they're selling houses. And this one says, this is a house that every year gets a sticker. It's just been sold, and I don't know what the story is. This house has an impressive rental history throughout the summer and academic year, situated in a highly desirable Narragansett neighborhood. This home is perfect for rentals, weekend getaways, and entertainment, family and friends. This past summer, we had 3 huge catered parties. Do they need licenses or anything for anything like that? They were just weekend rentals. They don't need to have to get these huge catered. You should have seen the traffic, the cars, and everything else. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Lois. Richard? What was the address? White Swan? White Swan, is that what?
Hi, Richard Van Gerish. I'd like to follow up on the last 2 speakers. And it comes from a comment made by one of the council people, I think at the last meeting, that rentals are not commercial buildings. I remain totally stunned by that. As the previous speaker read, I've read ads like that countless times. Invest in Narragansett. And one of the reasons it's such a sweet town to invest in is that we're charging them at the residential rate, and they can clean up on revenue. One way now it's very difficult once a house is bought, they're not going to sell it quickly because you raise the rent. But that will stop some of these ads because they will not pay the residential rate. If you are renting a house in Narragansett, there is no reason that you are paying a residential rate. You are in commerce. You're out to make rental income. If that isn't commerce, what is commerce?
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Susan, just to clarify, and the chief's here, we can have him, the amount of citations that was listed in the newspaper, that's a good thing, right? That means you're enforcing the ordinances and people are paying fines. So the fact that there are more of those is actually a good thing because you're out there enforcing, correct? All right, so good. That's good stuff. That's the reason that there's more of those in the citations. They're doing a great job. They're making sure that anyone who's violating any of our ordinances is getting fined. So that's why there's more of those, because of the hard work the chief's doing. It's a good thing, yes.
I'm Joe Santos, 29 Hope Lane. I just want to say that, I'm getting to a point where, I don't call the police anymore, and I'm basically getting to be like a lot of the people that have been living in Tower for many years because we don't see any real progress. We have seen some progress, but not a lot of it. My street, yesterday was all full of glass, broken glass everywhere, bottles, everything you can think of. And regarding, they just basically trashed the whole neighborhood. That's the way it is. And, at midnight, they out there yelling and screaming. And, you can't, I don't call the police because what happens is that by the time the police comes, it's too late and, they went somewhere else, within the neighborhood. It's, that happens every single night. And regarding the tax, I really believe that a lot of these rental people, landlords, they rent, 3-4 houses and even more. And, they have 5 bedrooms and, they're not getting $500 anymore. They're getting $650 or more. And, we paying for, to protect all these people by providing the police force, providing all the things that this town, provides, and we basically, helping these people out. And all this money that these people get goes out of town or out of state. It's about time that we start, putting a additional tax, to this business that they actually running. And, I sent an email to every single one of the town council, and Jill Lawler is the only one that responded to it. And it's about time that, that we do something about these students. It's getting to a point where people don't want to live here anymore. If you guys want to have, just rental properties, then that's what's going to happen. But, we need to think about the future of this town.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else wishing to speak? Karen?
Karen Shabshelowitz. I attended the beach meeting. I would like to heavily suggest that you raise the price of parking in the beach parking lots and do not grandfather in people that had the inside story that the best way to get a parking pass is to rent a locker. And you're trying some new things, but it's going to hurt families that live in town that have families visiting by raising the price of admission to the beach and not having admission prices for family members that might come to the beach. And it's sort of like, I'm sorry, but the town has created these problems, and now it's up to the town council to mandate the policies that will help alleviate some of the real problems we have in town, like the town being divided into investment properties and sort of diminishing the meaning of residents and resident rights in town. And I feel very strongly about this. And I just feel that people for too long at the town council level have been listening to the landlords and out-of-town landowners that rent, and it places a burden on people that want to live here full-time and enjoy their families.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else wishing to speak? Carol?
Good evening. I,
Carol, state your name and address.
oh,
Sorry.
yeah, Foster Lane, Narragansett.
Carol Stewart, Forsyth.
Carol Stewart, oh, I'm sorry.
Just helping you
I
out.
don't know my name.
Go ahead.
You're gonna have to help me from now on.
No
All right,
problem.
sorry. Okay. I just want to mention that lengthy, very involved, comprehensive planning document. Is it a living, working document, or is it words on paper that were typed up? Because we know some of the goals of the town, and what some of the people have been talking about were included as part of the goals of the town. And I shouldn't have to reiterate them, because for this to remain a community that's welcoming and safe, you need to concentrate on making sure that it is a safe place, people feel comfortable, and they can live in their home without feeling that they're going to be somehow, well, what's the word I want to use? The stress level is unacceptable for people who live in certain neighborhoods and on certain streets. It's totally unacceptable, and as you all know, it has been that way over years, and people have moved out. So let's think about the goal of the comprehensive plan and look at it and actually try to work on the mission statement of meeting some of those goals. The other thing I want to mention is everyone in this room knows that rentals are businesses, and the IRS knows rentals are businesses. So for people to equivocate is ridiculous. Go online. 10 top ways that your rental business can take their tax deductions, and on it goes. I can't deduct repairs to my house and many of these other activities that they're able to, if they drive their car, use gas, if they stay overnight in a hotel because they're out of state, they can deduct that because they're checking their properties. So let's face it, they are a business and you can't deny it. I'm not denying that they don't have a right to run a business, and that's fine. And we know we have to compromise on certain issues in order to accommodate tourists and some of the students. But let's
Thank you, Carol.
be fair about what is really the truth.
Thank you. John?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be back. John Miller, 99 Central Street. I heard the remarks that Joe, I can't pronounce Joe's last name, talking about the broken glass and the beer cans and the rest of it on his, in Eastwood Look, and particularly at his own place. And it's a terrible thing. Now, I know that the littering ordinance probably says that somebody can only be apprehended if the policeman sees them throwing something. But maybe we could consider doing some kind of littering inspection after these things happen and have a mild penalty of some kind, which would tend to dissuade them from being so careless. Of course, it's going to be a little difficult if somebody 3 houses down decides to dump their trash on your yard, but maybe there's some way of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no hands in the audience, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any council member that would like to pull anything on the consent agenda? Anybody? Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
A second. Who seconded it? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, consent agenda passes. We have about 7 minutes, so I'm going to move to new business. Number 6, a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a successor agreement with the University of Rhode Island relative to the lease of flow space at the regional wastewater treatment facility. This motion comes on by Jeff. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. Excellent. Number 7, a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a text amendment to the Fort Greene subdivision conservation easement. This comes on from Mike DeLuca. Do I have a motion?
Susan, I was going to ask to move to table this for, if I can get a second, and I'll explain.
I'll second.
It's for discussion.
I just haven't had a chance. It's a kind of complicated conservation easement. I'd like to take a little more time to review it myself. I haven't had enough time this weekend to go over it.
And you're okay,
Yes, I
so I'll honor that, and we have a second for that. So all those in favor of tabling it?
Table.
So till when?
I think we have a speaker here.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd continue, you want to read it,
What,
right? So-
yeah, what, if you want to
So we want to
continue
continue
it,
it to the
that's
next
fine.
meeting, so that will give Councilman Mannix opportunity to read it over and everything. So at the next meeting, which would be October 2nd,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to continue. Do I have a motion for continuing?
Move to continue to the next meeting.
Which is
Second.
October 2nd. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. We'll see you October 2nd. Number 8, a motion to authorize the use of the General Electric Services contract with EW Audit and Sons, Inc. for the installation of electric and pole lights for safety and security lighting at the Dominic Cristofaro Park in the amount of $26,229.39. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
I think
Anybody?
it's good, and would there include a light for the entrance as well?
Yeah, because I had a couple of calls about that too, about the lighting, so thanks for getting on that, Steve.
I
Anybody?
thought it did, but, yeah, I thought it did have that, but just wanted to clarify that.
Any conversation from the public? Anybody wishing to speak? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. Number 9, a motion to approve the purchase and installation of equipment for the 3 new police SUVs from Patrol Data in the amount of $25,601.79. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0, motion passes. Number 10, motion to approve the prorated annual service contract for the interoperable radio communication system for Motorola, Inc. in the amount of $31,306.70 for the remainder of the fiscal year 2017-18, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor. This was put on by Scott. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0, motion passes. We have a public hearing at 8 o'clock, so it'll give us just a couple of minutes. And I guess that's so actually, we have a public hearing at 8, but I want to go to the rescheduling, and I just want to talk to the council about opening public, to reschedule the public hearings on the amended text of Section 5 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Zoning for the purpose of the expanding of the historic district's zones. Do I have a motion to
So
schedule?
moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry that we're doing a rescheduling. There was an error on the mailing, so we have to reschedule these historic district public hearings, and the schedule goes as following. October 2nd for Ocean Road and Central Street. October 16th is Boone Street and Earls Court. And November 6th is Narragansett Avenue and Dunes area. So that's the new dates and the new districts, and to talk about expanding those areas. Do I have any discussion about the scheduling of those? Any discussion from the public about scheduling those historic district public workshops? Public hearings. None? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0, motion passes. And Jim, if we can get those on the website so the public is informed. I know there's going to be the mailing that is done, but we want to make sure that the public knows if it pertains to their area where they live, that they have the opportunity to come and speak. A motion to receive and place on file a petition to a public hearing on the ordinance and amendment of chapter. Oh, I can't do that one yet. Hold on. Stop. I'm not sure I can because of the. I'll wait until 8 o'clock. Sorry for rushing on that. You tell me when you're ready. Oh, you are? Okay, so a motion to open the public hearing on an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of opening the public hearing on ordinances of the Town of Narragansett entitled Taxation and Finance?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the public hearing is open. Anybody from the council want to make a comment, or you want to just hear from the public?
Speak.
Okay.
Before, I guess because Mike's not here, I'm wondering if we should, he's co-sponsor of the motion. Should we maybe respectfully from Mike hold off till he can be here, since was so passionate to be able to co-sign with Mr. Murray?
Yeah, so he indicated that he was going to be away, but certainly wanted to move forward with letting the public speak, so we voted to open it. So here we are, and he knew it was on the agenda, so he
We
wanted
can't
to.
let the wheels of democracy
So,
slow down here.
Right,
So-
but we have other, like, for example, we have the library item, which we're waiting for him on, so I
Yep.
just think.
Well, the library is a little different animal.
Well, they're both pretty big. I would just
He
argue
was,
that-
he was
yeah.
comfortable with me saying, hey, let's have the public hearing, so I don't see an issue.
Yeah, so anybody wishing to speak for the public hearing can come on up and be sworn in. And Richard?
Yeah, my name is Richard Vangermersh. I'll spell it to you just for the fun of it. Vangermersch, and I live, this time I'll say 9 Mount View Road in Narragansett, across the crucifix from the church.
Can you raise your right hand, please, Mr. Vandermeer? The testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Yeah.
truth?
What we, yes, what we see here is the beginning of a never-ending political issue. This is going to be the hottest issue for 2018, as it was the hottest issue for 2016, as it was the hottest issue for 2014 and maybe 2012. This is so non-productive, it's amazing. The same thing is going to happen next election. And unless we can get some sort of a 5-0 consensus here, this will never end. And this is most unhealthy for an organization to spin wheels like this. There are a lot of valuable things that can be done by a town council, but it can't be if all the time is spent with this never-ending spinning issue. Now, I heard no overriding argument given for the 125 versus the 150. It was just pass this or else. I'm going home. And I will make the same statement I made here. Without a cap on the benefit that this gives, I'm willing to give $100,000, $200,000 cap on this. I am not willing to give unlimited money to the Dunes Club, the Point Judith Club, to the Bonnet Shores Beach Club, to CVS, to Stop and Shop. Heavens forbid, there's got to be a cap. What the cap is should be studied carefully. I'm not prepared to say what the cap should be. Without a cap, whether it's 125 or 150 or 140, the term unjust enrichment strikes me as the most relevant term here. Taking from the poor and giving to the rich, the reverse Robin Hood that we seem to specialize in Narragansett, especially with the homestead, which was giving to the rich and giving a few pennies to the poor. Now, there are lots of things we can do. One of them we can do is that we can, we've already forgiven $30,000 on the property, the movable property of these. We can change the remaining to 10%.
Richard, you're going to have to wrap it up a little bit.
Okay, 10%, and hence that would be also a great thing. But we must tax eventually all commercial property at the business rate.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Stanley.
Raise your right hand, please. Any testimony you ought to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Stan Wojciechowski in Narragansett. Yes, we'll fight forever. We'll continue to fight. If there is something unjust happening, some inequality happening, there'll be a fight forever. Because we'll always come forward to try to right a wrong. And it's wrong when justice or inequality is violated. Therefore, I have to continue to come up here and fight for this justice. And I'm not going to tax businesses, rentals, old people, young people. I just We're all equal, one rate. It was here years ago, and it worked fine. There was what I heard, if you can remember, I heard former councilwoman say they went to a tier system because of an appraisal issue. And of course, that's all fixed with Vision Appraisal or with the new company. So if we got the correct appraisals, the appraisals will give us the opportunity to tax Stop and Shop. Because I'm sure Stop and Shop per square foot is worth a lot more than my home per square foot. So they will be taxed. All these businesses will be taxed more based on a per square foot adjustment. We don't need to fiddle with the rate. And I said it a million times, and I'll say it till I can't walk anymore, but I feel that is such an un-American way to work on this problem. And because of that, you're going to have a fight here as you continue to chip away at different people to get more money. As you continue to do that, you'll always have somebody fighting here, forever. Every year you're going to change it, every year we're going to fight. And the only way to stop the fighting in this town is come at one rate and do your diligence on appraisals. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak at the public hearing? Harry? Just let him speak. Let him speak.
Raise your right hand, please. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is, yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening.
So a couple of weeks ago, when you held a tax workshop, which we appreciate, I had the chance to present some information and some slides on behalf of the Narragansett Pier Residents Association. And, I just want to reflect on that. You all have a copy of it. You all are familiar with the data that's in it, and it's been presented many times. But I want to remind you tonight of a few outlying but very relevant points to the cause which we support, which is the three-tier tax. And so a couple of points. One is that you realize, of course, that only 1 in 4 landlords voted for all of you. Just 1 in 4, because the other 3 don't live here. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that businesses do deserve the best rate, they don't deserve better than a residential rate, but they do deserve better than the rental rates. And so no one's opposed, at least I'm not opposed, and NPRA is not opposed to giving businesses a better rate than they get. Whoops. Okay. And the three-tier rate is a good way to do that. And by the way, it's the simplest of things to administer, because here in this town we already have rental registration forms. So you already know who rents their homes and who doesn't. So that's a simple matter. One of the other things, and the question to me that came out of that night, was that, what do you want to do, give Ocean Road properties the best tax rate? Well, of course I do. And so does anyone who's got any kind of a business mind. In business, people are buying the highest volumes, get the best price. And, as you know, I don't live on Ocean Road. However, those that do pay very high taxes because of the property values. Just the point Stanley made relative to Stop and Shop. And these people largely don't have people in schools. They don't burden the police. Most towns would love to have an Ocean Road full of those properties. Why do you want to burden them? Give them the best rate. What do you want to do, drive them out of town? Turn them into condominiums? Add to the sewer costs and all the infrastructure costs? It's great that the police, Sean and his group, they do a great job, and it's a tough job. But remember, it's the residents here that are paying for that. The residents are paying that bill, not the landlords, because only 1 in 4 of them live here. So, how many times, just to finish up here, do you have to hear someone like Joe Santos come up here and tell you that in spite of the great police crackdown, And in spite of the fines, he's got glass all over his streets and noise all night. When are we going to say enough's enough? You know, it's been at least 2 years since we've had the parking subcommittee from ad hoc up here, and nothing's been done there, and that's a simple thing to fix. So the three-tier tax is an equitable, you know, it's time. How many times do you see how much support amongst the voting residents here are in favor of that? These are the people who did vote for you and do vote for you. You know, if you go back to the 60s, I'm reminded of that famous song by Bob Dylan that quoted the words, you know, the answer is blowing in the wind.
Harry,
well, the
you gotta
answer
wrap it
here
up.
is blowing in the wind. So
Thank
let's
you.
get on with it.
Thank you, Harry. Dennis.
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street. My understanding is the hearing is on taxation.
Excuse me, could you just raise your right hand, please?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, and any testimony you're about to give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
The hearing's on taxation, but as you're hearing from the sentiment of the audience, is taxation is sort of a tool and an element that plays into how we have quality of life in Narragansett. And it's hard to talk about taxation and rates and tiers without talking about rental properties. So I think it may have been Harry a couple of weeks ago who was saying, what does it feel like? We have 1 in 3 residential properties in Narragansett now that are rentals. What does it feel like when it turns into 1 and 2? It will be a road that we cannot return from. So every time in a neighborhood a home moves from full-time residence to seasonal rental, that never goes back. That never gets reconverted back to a residential home. So I really think we are at a tipping point, and we've been talking for years about the methodologies that the council uses to try to manage rentals. We have sufficient, is there anyone in the room that believes we don't have enough seasonal rentals? We have enough seasonal rentals. We don't need any more, and we need to manage the ones that we have properly. So I think that the council, in different ways, has addressed that. Enforcement is a methodology for doing it. Zoning, the 4 unrelated that you are appealing now, is part of it. And taxation is part of it, too. They're all prongs that go into managing this extraordinary number of seasonal rentals that we have in town. And a way of doing that, that I think has substantial support in the community, is to evaluate a 3-tier tax system in order to be one of the elements that manages seasonal rentals. So as we have the hearing tonight, and as you move forward with readings on commercial rate, I would very much appreciate, I think the town residents would appreciate it, if a counselor could see their way clear to recommending a hearing specifically on the 3-tier, to really get under the covers more, to understand the details and the dynamics more, because I think, as many people do, that could be a very effective way of being one of the elements that actually manages this very, very large issue that we have as it relates to seasonal rentals. So I'm hoping that a counselor would be sympathetic to that, and thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anybody else wishing to speak? John?
Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
John Miller, 99 Central Street, Narragansett. Every time I come in this room, I'm reminded that I was educated in this building. Now, I'm 85, so I guess I'm the oldest man in the room right now. I'm not going to give you my life story because you don't have time. But Lois is about 59, I think. But my feeling about this is there are 3 categories of people. It's obvious. In Narragansett, there are the people, the long-term residents. When I came here, the year-round population in Narragansett was 1,000 people. It was that way until after the war, and the Quonset development had gone on. And at one point, I had the bright idea, which made some sense, I think, that if I could get the enrollment figures from URI and compare them with the enrollment figures in Narragansett Elementary, it would prove something. Well, I don't think it was too difficult to get the figures, but you get my drift. Now, I think Harry Schofield's plan is perfect. I mean, once again, there are three categories of people who live here. The year-round residents who are here because they love the town, the businessmen who are catering to them and have a business going, makes sense. And the third group are the landlords. And the landlords, some of them, if you're a landlord and have one extra house, you're going to get your homestead exemption and come out about even. But the others that live in Peoria and Memphis, they're just here to take what they can out of the town, and that's a shame. So I'm for Harry Schofield's plan.
Thank you, John. Anybody else wishing to speak at the public hearing? Win?
The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Name and address for the record, please.
Win Hames, or Wintersby Hames III, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island. This hearing is about the 25%. Okay, I got confused because there were a lot of other things going on besides that. During the last campaign, when I was sitting on the dais a few places with all of you, a lot of you said that you would repeal the 1.5 of the flat tax and come back with something that aimed at small businesses, to give small business tax relief. This proposal now doesn't do that. It gives Stop and Shop again $30,000 and gives the guy on Boom Street $100. It's not very fair to the small businesses. If you really want to do something, you just took the easy way out, Patrick. All you did is say, okay, give everybody the same thing. When I was on the DS, I said it would take some work to come up with proposals for ways to aim at the small businesses to give them tax credit or tax relief. A simple way to do it right now is you can give every single business a $450 tax credit to offset the corporation money they now pay to the state. It costs you less than the $900,000. The $450 going to Boone Street will be a lot more meaningful than the $100 they were getting, and the Stop and Shop could still get their $450 as well. There's plenty of programs out there that you can aim towards small businesses, okay, without just doing this blanket thing and giving the largest commercial entities in this town the biggest amount of the money.
Thank you, Win. Anybody else wishing to speak at the public hearing?
Testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Name and address for the record, please.
David Winter, once again. I'm sorry, what? Winter, W-I-N-T-R, David Winter, Boone Street. Boone Street. I'm going to come at this from a different angle on that. But what's happening in this town is not going to be adjusted by tax rates and stuff like that. The future of this town is they're going to continue to buy here. They're going to continue to either rent or just use the places in the summertime. And if you're going to come at this problem, it can't be from a tax thing and trying to punish them and stuff. It's going to have to be a much more creative solution to come up with this thing. Otherwise, you're not going to have a chance of stopping it. And I don't think there's really anything you can do. That's just the history of the town that's evolving. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak at the public hearing? Seeing nobody, is there somebody? Oh, sorry. You can turn the mic down, right, bend it down.
Just raise your right hand for me, please. The testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
It is.
Name and address for the record, please.
Martha Bruno, 197 Ocean Road. I think there's a lot involved here. I happen to be a realtor as well as the owner of the property. And I think it begins to impinge on people's individual rights when you try to regulate things such as the zoning districts, and I don't know how much it entails. I just received the letter and don't know a lot about it.
So, this is a public hearing on the tax, not the,
Well, taxes as well, the whole, it mentions,
are you talking about the historic districts that are coming up?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so there are going to be public hearings, and you can speak during those public hearings on those expansions of the historic district when they speak about Ocean Road?
yes, also the tiered taxation. Again, I believe it begins to interfere. It's a thing that's not unilateral and fair to everyone. So that's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak? Paul? Oh. Okay, Paul, what a gentleman. You're going to have Carol go up. All right, Carol, here you go.
I think he'll be more succinct and to the point.
Could you raise your right hand?
Carol Stewart,
Didn't mean to scare you.
Stuart,
And is
35 Foster Lane.
Testimony I'm about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes. Again, this is turning into more than it should have, and I think the burden rests with how it was introduced and really rushed. You know, if you don't have the workshop by the end, I'm going to vote for it now. Those kind of comments, unacceptable. The constituents and the people who sit here and listen, there was so much confusion that first time about what time of year does the fiscal year end in December and the revals, or can it be July? And I mean, an ordinary person would have no idea if this was something that had to be done immediately, or it could wait until the budget season. That's unacceptable. There has to be a rational discussion. It can't be emotional. I think most of us agree we want the small businesses to thrive. We do support the small businesses. We're in favor of helping the small businesses. Who would be against that? That's not the point. It has to be done within the realm of rationality, and I don't see any rationale for rushing this so quickly. You know, you better do it now or I'm going to vote and it's going to go through. That's unacceptable behavior on the part of a public official. So, yes, if there is some way to look at the budgets, the demographics, who will be affected, as some people have brought up, is it just the small businesses, what can be done for them, et cetera. It has to be analyzed and evaluated. You just don't jump into it because I feel good because I talked to some people and the businesses say this would be, I'd love this. Well, of course they would, and we would all love them to thrive. I hate to see those empty places in plywood day after day, week after week, year after year, and they're becoming more, prominent. So let's think about this rationally, without the emotion attached, and try and do something for the small businesses, and do some research and analysis and assessment. And I mean detailed assessment about the implications of making, you just can't change tax rates willy-nilly on a whim. Again, how many millions of dollars is in our budget?
I have a question for you.
What?
If we voted right now on the three-tier tax, would you approve for that? If we voted right now, three-tier tax, let's take a vote. Would you support that?
If there was a well documented analysis of the impact.
Thank you, Carol.
on
I
the
don't want him
budget
to
of the
put.
town.
All right,
But
your
the-
3 minutes are up, and I don't want him to put you on the spot. You can save that for another time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, because
Paul, go ahead. Thank you, Carol.
Paul Zanfrillo, 7 Windward Circle.
The testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I would like you to consider 3 businesses. Ahold Corporation, the $55 billion parent of Stop and Shop, a Froyo shop in Stop and Shop Plaza, and Iggy's. So there's one common thread to the success or failure of these 3 businesses, and that's planning and execution. In the case of Stop and Shop, they did, at a corporate level, traffic studies and a lot of work, and there's a successful business there. And Iggy's and Aunt Carrie's, they did the same thing after decades of a business plan that they know works. They can make all their money in 3 months. And that's how they design their businesses. Other businesses in town diversify. They go into internet businesses or real estate to ride out the bump. So businesses live and die on their planning and execution. And those who take the risk and plan well, they enjoy the benefits. But those who don't, they fail. And so the problem with this tax break is that it's really the worst of both worlds, right? There's already a favorable business climate in Narragansett for business. These intrepid entrepreneurs and corporate planners did not come here because of the tax rate. This tax rate gives the biggest of the big multi-billion-dollar corporations, they don't even round off to they round off to the billion. Multi-billion-dollar corporations, tens of thousands of dollars. Insignificant, they don't care. This is a lot of money to the town, though. So we give the Dunes Club 36 grand so we can give Monahan's Clam Shack $1,500. Stop and Shop gets $20,000 so Brinkley's can get $1,200 in relief. There are things that the town can do that are more valuable than giving businesses money. Things like zoning and sewers and things like that. I mean, this is well-intentioned but really misguided. In order to succeed in business in Narragansett, it takes good planning and execution, not tax breaks. So I would encourage those folks watching at home to email the town council at narragansett.gov, and tell them what you think. You know, and I'm really surprised at how little response there is from the sponsors and the supporters of this bill, of this ordinance, when we say, hey, there's going to be a ton of money, $750,000 perhaps, going to these huge companies, and nobody bats an eye. Could you please spend the money like it's your money? Could you please think of it like that and not 19 cents? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else wishing to speak at the public hearing? I need a motion. Oh, do you want to say something before?
Yeah, before we
it?
close the public hearing, and I don't want to kind of reiterate kind of the past arguments here, because Richard made some good points saying that at some point, you know, this is going to dominate, you know, the agenda of the town again and again and again. And so when we talk about a compromise, you're going for something that you wouldn't have otherwise gone for. So back in December of 2015, people may remember when we were began the fight for the homestead exemption. And I did disagree with Richard. I think the homestead exemption is a tax break for the residents and the homesteaders. I think it's been something that, you know, David Crook, Carol Stewart, Anne Marie Silvera, people for many years fought for, and it was important that we finally got it through because of the unique characteristics of our town. So, but at that time I said, I'd be willing to go and reduce that commercial rate 10% from the 150. I've said it publicly, not something, I hear the arguments that some see it as a windfall, but that would be something in the spirit of compromise. I would go agree with something that I would not otherwise agree with, because we need to move forward from this dialogue. I anticipated after the whole election and campaign about this issue where it dominated, and Susan and I and Patrick served on the council where we were presented with a very black and white choice. So everybody was forced into a corner. on this issue. There was no discussion of a compromise. And I'm not saying that going to a 140 is what the compromise should be. There may be another compromise out there, but I think we need to be thinking about that instead of this, because this dichotomy will go on forever. I think Patrick and Mike have seen that the 125, it's too much of a tax increase on the residents, okay? It's about $1 million, and you've seen from the public, from people up on the dais, that it's not something that has widespread support. So 125, it sounded like an easy compromise, but it's only a 10% homestead. So I get the sentiment, I think I get where you were going, but 125, not enough. 140, could we roll up our sleeves and budget and make up several $100,000 in the budget in April? Yes. $1 million, Laura will tell you, it's hard to do, and she knows that I scrutinize the budget. She gets mad at me sometimes, but that's okay, right? So you don't get mad, maybe impatient, right? So, but anyway, I just in that spirit, and maybe there's something else out there, and I think I leave the public hearing open, Susan. I don't think I want to close it because maybe something better than what I'm coming up with is out there. But that's up to the three of you, and but I think we've got to stop. We're just not getting anywhere.
So
And
Matt,
that's what compromise looks like, is that you don't.
well,
so,
that's
yeah.
where the 125 came in. That was a compromise. We had a single tax rate. You had it repealed. We're at 150, so 125 is right in the middle. That's the grand compromise.
But it gobbles up too much of the homestead.
It's 19 cents. No, it doesn't gobble up the homestead.
This is
It's
now
spread out among a $60 million budget.
So,
You want to gobble up the homestead. Let's go to a three-tier tax, and instead of having 32%
Patrick, I
of the
don't- if
homes
you wanna go-
receiving the homestead, you're going to have 67% of the homes receiving the homestead under the three-tier tax plan. So you want to talk about diluting
Patrick, but the
homestead.
125 was not viewed as a compromise by many in the public.
Well,
as you saw,
the people I
that's
talk
right.
to, people who support me support the 125%.
But if you were to go to 140 or something else where there's there are perhaps other solutions out there, you still would be able to go to those constituents and you would have gotten something.
Well-
And I know that's what you're worried about, and I'm trying here because it was not allowed last term, okay? There was no room for compromise
We had
last
several
term.
meetings, several
But there was
discussions.
no, right, seriously, there was no room for compromise
Looking for a
last term.
Several
compromise,
discussions,
right?
you know.
So anyway,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
thank you both. I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move that motion.
Do I have a second? Can I second it? All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
Okay, so that closes the public hearing, and we still have more work to do.
Susan, it's not closed. It was 2 to 2.
Two to two,
It's got to stay open.
oh, it's going to stay open. Oh, it failed. I thought it passed 2-2. So it will stay open. We'll continue our conversation on the tax policy, and we'll have a motion in the future. So more to come on the tax policy. Have a good evening. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.